And another point guard, Dennis Schroeder, apparently rejected the Lakers' latest contract extension, 4 years, $84 million. Now, one of the reasons why I've loved the NBA is because of how progressive they are and the fact that Adam Silver is such a pro player, player-friendly commissioner. Those aspects of the NBA are awesome and should be commended. But conversely, one of the downsides to the NBA, and we've seen this manifest in the NBA more so than in any other sports league, is the fact that a lot of players are quite frankly overvalued and overpaid. Now, I am all for players making as much money as they can. And if you've got a great agent who can broker deals for you, by all means, do not take a hometown discount. Do not take a team-friendly discount. Sign for the max that you can. I am all for that. And if an agent can land you a lucrative contract, then you may need to hire that agent to get your groceries or do all the ancillary things and day-to-day, the trivial things for you every single day, because that is an accomplishment in and of itself. But we've seen that a trend has been happening in the NBA, which is that a lot of good and mediocre players are getting all-star caliber contracts. Now, I'm not saying that Dennis Schroeder is a mediocre player. By no stretch of the imagination am I trying to suggest that. But again, we've seen a tendency for good players making great player money, especially when they're on a successful and a winning team. The Cavaliers, perfect example in 2016 after they won the championship. Tristan Thompson scores himself an $80 million contract. J.R. Smith signs a lucrative contract. Matthew Dellavedova signed a big contract. Timofey Mozgov with the Lakers signed a 4-year, $64 million contract. Chandler Parsons, you remember Chandler Parsons? He signed a 4-year, $94 million extension and contract with the Memphis Grizzlies a few years back. Chandler Parsons, I haven't even heard him in the league the last 3 years. And again, all the power to the players and their agents, and they should command that type of money, because if they're not trying to vouch for themselves and collect the most that they can, then they're not doing their job properly. So I have no issue with the players feeling like they should be valued higher and feeling that you should be paying more of a premium for their services. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But Dennis Schroeder, he's averaging 15 points per game this year, 3.5 rebounds, 5 assists, 43% shooting from the floor, 32% from the three-point line for his career, which has spanned now 8 years. He's averaging 14 points per game for his career. Now, Dennis Schroeder is a really good player. He's a starting caliber point guard, which is really, really impressive. Is he an all-star? No. And unfortunately for him, the contracts that he's receiving reflect his level of play, because he's in the final year of his current contract, which is paying him $16 million a year. It was a 4-year, $72 million deal. And the Lakers do value Dennis Schroeder. They obviously initially threw him a 4-year, $72 million deal earlier in the season. He declined it. And so they upped it to 4 years, $84 million, a $3 million per year bonus. And apparently, Dennis Schroeder, quote unquote, wants well above $20 million a year. But the reality is, if you're the Lakers, maybe he's worth that. I'd say at the most he's worth $100 million at the very max, but he's not worth much more than that if you're the Lakers. Now, maybe he can command more money in free agency. And again, I don't know how much money he can sign for in the offseason. I don't know how much money the Lakers can offer him in the offseason, or how much he can command from another team, which it's certainly possible he could command a 4-year, $125 million deal from someone else. But with the Lakers, when you've got LeBron and you've got Anthony Davis, the reality is no one's going to be valued nearly close to what those guys are getting paid. And I think that's what Dennis Schroeder is kind of looking for, is for a deal that's a little bit perhaps underneath the max of an all-star, which is around a 5-year, $170 million deal. If that's the type of deal he's looking for, I'm afraid the Lakers are not the destination long-term for him, because there's no way they would sign him to that kind of contract. Again, I like him a lot. I don't fault the players for wanting that type of money. You should command that type of money. Hell, if an agent can broker a deal to get you that type of money, all the power to you. Then you're doing your due diligence. You're doing your job. But I just don't think that Dennis Schroeder, if that's realistically the deal he's looking for, then the Lakers are not going to be the long-term play for him. So that's just my thoughts and 2 cents on the matter.